Actually, I'm really excited to start from your first choice for two reasons. One, it's because it's a video, and as you know, I work a lot with moving images. And the second one is, to me, this is really one of those most special discoveries that I had in the fair. We are at Import-Export, and we're looking at a video of Franziska and Stefan Temersons. So it's a very special and unusual proposition to finally find videos sometimes in fairs. So I'm very happy that you decided to start from this. Would you like to tell me how was your encounter with this work and why you decided to select it as one of your 4 propositions?
I think we were both super drawn to it from the first second. For me, it's quite a personal work because I actually showed the work in a program at the ICA in London. I think in 2011, I dedicated a small exhibition and a day of events to the works of Franziska and Stefan Temerson. And actually, I was working with Sonia at that time at the ICA, so it's really nice. A lot of things are coming together, but they are really kind of the true avant-garde. And you can see so much of that coming together in this work where 4 musical artworks are being visualized in different experimental ways. And I think it speaks a lot to their practice overall. They, especially Franziska, but both with their collaborative practice, they made books, they illustrated children's books, they played with typography, they wrote music, they made films, they made theater plays.
We usually place moving image experimentations starting around the 60s and then into the 70s, but we're in 1945. 2 Polish exiles, like they arrive in the UK before in Paris and then to the UK because of the war in Poland. And they start experimenting with moving images. And this in particular is something that we could define as a cinematographic interpretation of music of the Polish composer Karol Szymanowski. And it's really like kind of playing with the idea of visually engaging with music and experimenting over that, not only with animation, but also with actual film, where the artist also intervened directly on the film.
Exactly.
The interdisciplinarity of this work is stunning. It's a truly pioneering piece of cinematography because it's music, it's the image, it's the montage, but also poetry comes into place by a very famous Polish poet Julian Tuwim, which gets also translated. You know, they arrived to London in very turbulent circumstances. They established themselves immediately within this experimental network. If you think about what undertaking it was to have the orchestra recording the sound and the translation of the poetry and this pioneering vision for moving image, what truly strikes me is also this persistence of making art and trying out new things throughout such a turbulent period. I mean, not all of the films of Temerson survived the war. The gallerist Sonia yesterday told us about one of the last missing films being recently discovered in a bunker in Berlin and retrieved. So it's also stunning how much work, and I think Anna's show speaks to it, the estate in London did for this couple after they passed away, and to bring them back to more contemporary discourse.
First edition entered the Tate collection, and the second one, thanks to the fair, entered the GAM collection. So it's an incredible institutional recognition, and also kudos to you to spotting this work before this was officialized.
It's also the gallery who takes the risk to bring this film of obscure artists to a commercial context and to toy with a medium which is not necessarily largely collectible. This is a still growing scene, so I'm really pleased.
And you know, this is what the section Back to the Future is for, right? To be able to bring back to the surface practices that might have been overlooked in the past. And so in this sense, like the fact that this work is here, thanks to, let's say, also Heike Hunder and Jacopo Crivelli Visconti, that are the curator of this section this year, like I think they did an incredible job to bring this presentation to the fair.
Absolutely, but I think it's not just something that has been under the radar, but I think what really the introduction of Franziska's practice in general, it speaks to an urgency that the work still holds today.
I think we can move forward to the second proposition. And yeah, maybe while we walk, you're both directors of incredible institutions, one that is totally upcoming and in the making. Kasia, maybe you can tell us a little bit more of how you are envisioning the opening next year of KANAL.
Very thrilled to use this platform to announce the opening of KANAL in November 2026. So a year from now, after Artissima, I hope we'll meet in Brussels. KANAL is a new museum of modern and contemporary art in Brussels, the first one in the city. It's a brilliant, very big facility with plenty of programming from the early 20th century to contemporary. And I think the fact that we started with the Temersons, looking at how the disciplines cross over, is also symbolical to me, because at KANAL we will do that a lot. Brussels is a city where interdisciplinarity was pioneered by many artists. It's very precious there, and we hope to build on that. And looking at works such as the Temersons film,
and
it's a nice reminder.
Because we're at a fair, it's important to say that it's a collecting institution.
It is a collecting
So you're building up a
institution.
collection that at the moment is focused on the Brussels, like let's say Belgian-based or Belgian artists around the world.
Exactly, it's contemporary collection reflecting the huge diversity of Belgian scene. Brussels is home to hundreds of artists. I mean, the sole fact that my neighbors from Brussels, three artists, Ariel Villanova, Aline Bouvy and Mit Warlop, are going to represent their respective countries at the Venice Pavilion next year. Shows how rich this scene is. So we're very proud to serve this scene.
And what about Berlin? What about Berlin, the Haus on Waldsee?
The Haus on Waldsee is quite the opposite. We're turning 80 next year. It's housed in a historic villa on the outskirts of Berlin, right by the lakes. I've been there now for about 3.5 years, and it's an incredible institution. It's not a purpose-built museum. It's actually a villa that people lived in. So you're really close to a lived reality, and that's something that we are really pushing forward with the program. Always kind of thinking about how to allow artists to rub up against the space that this is. And it's not a neutral space. It tells a lot of histories about the people that lived there. And then, of course, about the institutions, or the institution it became after it became an art institution in 1946. So right in the kind of aftermath of the Second World War, really being one of the places that reintroduced artists that were deemed degenerate during the Nazis, and building an amazing legacy of exhibitions. It has a beautiful garden and has a cafe, so it's a place you want to spend time in. So you take the art in as a kind of an experience that goes beyond just seeing a show, which is really exciting.
Exactly.
It is quite a dream. Yeah.
We are at Argentil Carioca, a fantastic gallery from Rio, and now recently also in São Paulo. Well, I think it's interesting. We are approaching the second proposition of your Walkie Talkie, and we start introducing a theme that will be a thread in the next three propositions.
We did an exhibition by accident.
A thread being a key word.
Yeah. A thread being a key word with, something that comes from above. And this is a work that can be activated. So we're in front of the work of Laura Lima. And this is, I think the title in Portuguese is really beautiful. It's Disco Voadore. So it's translated into flying object, but I think we lose in a certain sense one of the elements, which is something that comes from outer space. What drew you to the work of Laura?
I must say that I've been following Laura's work for many, many years, and every time I see it, I'm drawn into it without knowing that it's her, because Laura is one of those artists who reinvents herself over and over again. It's always about the body and performance. I think this is also, it's to be activated. They move. And
Just so fun.
what drew me, I must say that's a big reference for me when I saw this work. I thought to myself, wow, it's such a Torino work. I thought about the living sculptures of Marisa Merz, when she also toyed with these metal sheets and was trying to do it into those creatures inhabiting her kitchen, and there is a lot of domesticity. But there is this choreography to this piece, as we got to know. It's stemming from a series which was presented at MAGBA in Barcelona maybe 2 years ago, when a whole room of those objects was performing choreography powered by bicycles and visitors really interacting with them. So
Almost dancing with them.
So this
right?
combination of an object which is never static, with visitors who are key for perception, I think this is very beautiful. There is also, as you noted, an important aspect of threading and weaving. Anna, maybe you want to talk about it.
Well, for me, it's really this name that she found for that is the instance. No, you're kind of instantly in the work, and that's really hard in an art fair. No, where there are so many works, and it's not always the ideal scenario with bright lights and kind of these little boxes. And I found with this work, I forget everything around me, and I'm in the work. And as you said before, you're almost kind of dancing with it, you're playing with it, you become activated with it, and it's a work that it kind of exists with the visitor, which I always think is such a pleasure to have these rare moments where you're in the work. And I think we can say that she will have a show at the ICA next year where she will continue this line of working.
I think to us as institutional people, no, we never can touch the artworks. So I was standing here at the booth like doing this like over and over again, and the temptation is just forever there, and that gives a great...
But we're also back at the thermosens with the sonic quality, no? As soon as you have movement, you have a sound playing in your head, you know, you have the sound of metal being suggested just by looking at it. I think it's a work that really also plays to multiple senses.
Wonderful. And actually, it's a work that speaks very much to what is also your next proposition, which is it's once again in one of the curated sections. In this case, it's present future, and it's a very beautiful and very present, once again, work that hangs from the ceiling, proposed by Messen, and it's a collective, it's a duo, Mountain Cutters.
Yes, it's a young collective of artists, both trained in Marseille, and they met during studying, and I find it quite beautiful that two young artists study together, and then that practice matures together, and it's transformed into something like really permanent. Mountain Cutters are indeed based in Brussels, so this is my patriotic
Your hood.
nod.
Your hood.
It is a piece that was previously presented and commissioned by an institution called Wheels and presented over their rooftop. And you know, the previous works that I know, and the artist was here to. One of the artists was here to tell us about it. They are also always very grounded, close to the earth, floor sculptures. We have a couple of those on the booth. This is a suspended work. And there was a beautiful narrative behind it. They made it in a place where there is an underground river. And it reflects this underground presence through an object which is installed like a couple floors up and really vertical. But what speaks to me the most is the fact that it's about two artists working together. It's about connecting the underground with the sky, but also it's made of materials which are conductors. They're highly, the connectivity conductors. So we have this wire, the copper wire, which really speaks materially to the notion of connectiveness. And I think for a duo of artists to toy with this idea of how it is to transmit and connect with each other, it's very beautiful. There's a fair amount of chance in the work as well, and I know Anna spoke to the artists about it in relation to those glass forms.
Yeah, I think the idea of undercurrents, that there are always kind of invisible energy lines going through our world and we're not always aware of them, is something that really struck out to me. But then they're kind of including glass, which is not something that is a conductor, as almost these kind of moments of holding and of breaking. And I think this seems to be a motif in the work, that they kind of channel and then find moments to hold and find maybe a different form of connection.
Maybe also to offer.
Exactly.
The work has a beautifully poetic title, is To Shake the Riverbeds.
Yeah.
I think the duo they have a writing practice as well, and so I've heard from the galleries that the titles are always very poetic.
It's also interesting in relation to this buried river over which they constructed the work, the riverbeds, the water, the flow. It all comes strongly together in this material aspect of the...
But they're also really interested in the way that material ages or corrodes. No, you have the feeling that the aged copper is not, or that the material has been through something. It's already telling a story.
And the materials are incredibly rough, but there's a strange tactility to them, like fragility. There is certain level of appeal to touch, to connect, and I don't know if you have the little piece.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring out actually, because I think there is this beautiful, very generous offer that it's made in this booth, which is this tiny little piece of sculpture that is offered to some of the guests, and it really is something that creates a moment of connectivity and then remains to someone else. And
it's so nice. I have it in my bag at the moment, and I'm kind of playing with it the whole time.
It brings you
once again,
together.
When you were saying coming from a duo that obviously understands how a collective made of two artists is about also connections and negotiations between the two, and the work is a result of that connectivity. I think this is also a beautiful way to extend that connectivity to the audience, right? So yeah, maybe we can move forward to the last proposition. Maybe while we walk, we could discuss. I'm curious to understand, for two curators, museum institutional directors, coming to a fair like Artissima, is it still, I imagine, I hope I know the answer, but an opportunity to discover new artists and do you still use fairs as a context in which you discover new artists and new galleries and new programs?
For me, I like to think so. I think with big affairs, very often less and less. It's very, very often a matter of connecting to people. Mm-hmm. But I think Artissima has this still this power of not only showing the works that maybe are less seen, but also the fact that how we were put together. I mean, Artissima has a great program for curators and visitors. And I think the way it's structured in a very generous way also makes us to look at works more carefully. Mm-hmm. I think this kind of training of selecting pieces together, negotiating them, discussing them in depth, makes us exercise a process of actually discovering practices that otherwise maybe we would omit somehow in the kind of intensity of the fair as an experience. So this is why I like Artissima.
And for you, Anna?
There's two surprises.
For me, fairs are always a bit of a chore, I have to admit. Like, I prefer, if I see a lot of works, I like to see them at places that help the work or speak to the work. So for me, the kind of white walls, I very quickly lose attention. But weirdly, Artissima doesn't have that in the same way that other places. I actually really love coming here. I think the space is more airy. There's a different selection of galleries, often galleries I haven't heard from, so also less usual suspects. And I think that the curated sections really, I mean, of course, speak to curators that like discovering new and forgotten talents. I think that I would be lying if I wasn't saying that coming to Turin is part of the kind of goal as well, because the richness of the institutions, the history of the city, I think, it's a good combination.
It's a place that you return
whenever I can.
We arrive at the last proposition. We are here at Enrico Astuni, a gallery from Bologna that is bringing to the fair an incredible master, David Medaglia, and this is like a very, very important work, dated from 1968 to 2015. And the title is A Stitch in Time, and in this case, green, with Mons, Belgium as a beginning of the very first time in which this work was displayed, and where the practice that we actually are seeing right now happening from two members of the audience who are engaging with the work, it's actually happening here right now in front of our eyes. Would you like to tell us a little bit more of what drew you to this proposition?
I'm still just so excited to see this work. I think it's just such a treat, and to see it at a fair, I first thought, is this weird? But actually, it's the perfect way to kind of take maybe a step aside out of the hustle and bustle and really be with the work. And I think that's also something that Medaglia said about the work. It's like, while you're stitching, there's no other way but to be with your practice. You can't do a lot of other things at the same time. So this is, I think, really something that the work gives to you. Since the work lives on through it being shown and always gets added to, I think it's really a work that tells us so much about the story of the encounters that not just the artist had, but that this artwork had in itself.
Because maybe we should say that basically the artwork consists in a long textile sheet where everything is provided in order for the audience to basically engage with it in any way they want. Like so, as we can see, either attaching business cards or letters or pieces of ideas, or directly stitching a message into the work.
What is really moving about this piece is also the history of how it came to be. Medalla describes a situation parting with his friends at the airport and gifting them a piece of cloth with
such
a
a
little
beautiful
stitching as a parting gift that can help them reconnect. And as this idea grows over time, I think it's quite moving to think about this work, about the something that marks the passage of time, but also your feelings, your emotions. There's something about the presence and absence, again about coming together, which we can see through the most basic gesture.
And also the finitude of a work, right? This is a work that questions the idea of a work being finished, because the more it is exhibited, the more it adds to the experience of being exhibited, and carries, maybe different languages, different traces of the locations where it was shown, and similar works have been exhibited, for example, with great success at the Biennial in 2017, the one curated by Christine Marcel. It was a very, very prominent presence in the Arsenale, and he just recently had this incredible show at Museion in Bolzano, which has been celebrated in Italy and beyond as one of the most fulfilling and complete presentation of his practice. And once again, it challenges, when we were talking about Laura Lima saying that we're not used to touch an artwork. Here we're even invited to intervene directly on it, and in a way questioning authorship, because we are all somehow in a way authors of what we are watching.
Yeah, it's almost like a talisman of sorts, and the way that it's being added to it becomes a time capsule, no? It will in the end become hopefully many, many years and thick layers. So it also has a completely open potential to its visual identity going forward.
It's in a way, it's beautiful. It's forever unfinished, because there's no instruction of when this work is becoming too full.
Yeah.
So it's been now 10 years, as far as I understand, since when it was conceived, and it still goes on, and there's plenty of space here. So it will be bringing people together for many years to come, which I find quite beautiful.
Absolutely.
So I think the best way to close this walkie-talkie would actually be to sit here and maybe leave our own trace on this beautiful work of David Medalla. So maybe before we sit down and do our own part to contribute to this beautiful work, I will thank you for being with us today and for joining the walkie-talkie. And let's take a seat and contribute, I guess, no?
Thank you for having us. It's been a treat. We'll be back
Really
next
nice.
year.